911 location of your emergency.
A 911 call from a house in Creve Coeur in July 2020.
My fiance just shot herself.
Your fiance just shot herself?
Yes.
A nightmare for the family of Grace Holland.
Yeah, it's hard to live in a world without her.
Back in 2021, First Alert 4 Investigates exposed questions about Grace's death. She had died from a single gunshot wound to the head. Creve Coeur police had ruled her death a suicide, but Grace's family was and still is concerned by how the investigation was handled. In part, they say because Grace's fiance is a captain in a neighboring fire department.
I'm a captain with the fire district.
Now, Saturday, another death inside that same person's home, this time on Conway in Frontenac.
Hey, welcome back to Carrie Moody channel. Today we are going to discuss Sarah Sweeney and Grace Holland. Now, this is just kind of a crazy story that has just recently taken a turn all of its own. So let's start with Grace Holland first, and then we'll get to Sarah Sweeney, who has just recently passed. Now, most of what I've been able to learn about Grace Holland comes from her own family's Facebook group that they have set up for her, Justice for Grace Holland, as well as Crime Scoop did an excellent article back on November 2nd, 2021. So the sad story with Grace Holland begins in Creve Coeur, Missouri. And on the morning of July 22nd, 2020, Laura Holland woke up to a chilling Facebook message that said, "Is it true your sister is dead?" The message was from a teacher at Laura's niece's school. The teacher had heard the news of a parent's death from the school's resource officer. This is how Laura first heard the news that her twin sister, 35-year-old Grace Holland, the best friend she'd known her entire life, sat next to for 12 years through Catholic school and shared all her birthdays with, was dead. "I was in shock," says Laura. She called her other sister, who works in drug rehab and who put her on the phone with a crisis counselor. She called her parents and heard men's muffled voices in the background. She knew they had just been told the news as well. Laura remembers hearing her mother's voice on the phone, begging her over and over, "Don't drive anywhere." That same day, one of Grace Holland's 4 daughters was eagerly waiting for her mom to come home so they could go shopping together. But Grace never showed up, and her daughter never saw her mother alive again. At about 5 a.m. that morning, Grace had been fatally shot in the head in the Creve Coeur, Missouri home she shared with her then fiance, 47-year-old Rob Dowse. Dowse was calling the death a suicide. Grace's family wasn't so sure.
911 location of your emergency.
2-3 Fairway Circle.
2-3 Fairway Circle.
Yes, ma'am.
What's going on?
My fiance just shot herself.
Your fiance just shot herself?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It's a mortal wound.
Okay.
I'm a captain with the fire district with Maryland Heights.
Okay.
She shot herself.
Okay, let me connect you over to Central County, okay? Hang on 1 second. So are you out in St. Charles, or is that where she's at?
No, Creve Coeur. Creve Coeur.
Okay.
What's the location of your emergency?
This is West Central with a transfer. He's at 23 Fairway.
623 Fairway Circle.
Oh, I'm sorry, 623.
3 Fairway Circle. Okay, is that a house or an apartment?
It's a house.
Okay, what's the emergency there?
My fiance shot herself.
She shot herself? Where did
She shot herself in the head. It's a mortal injury. I'm a captain with Maryland Heights. I'm calling her.
Okay, sir. I'm sorry. So she is beyond.
Yes, that's correct. I just
Around 5:10 a.m. on July 22nd, 2020, Rob called 911 and calmly identified himself as a fire captain with Maryland Heights. He told dispatch that Grace had shot herself in the head in front of him. Now, despite being a trained first responder, he made no attempt to revive Grace, who had been shot through the left frontal lobe from a downward angle. Grace was right-handed. Almost immediately, Rob also called the attorney for the Maryland Heights Fire District, Neil Bruntreger, with whom he conferred before providing a signed written statement to the police. He was lawyering up. When Laura heard Grace had been killed, she immediately thought of the recordings. In the months leading up to her death, Grace had been recording Dowse's abuse, believing if she exposed it, she'd be able to get him help. The abuse was escalating, and Grace was often covered in bruises, Laura recalls. Grace even played one of the tapes for Dowse to show him how he treated her without any provocation. Her family says this would prove to be a tragic mistake. Grace told her family she had even contacted Maryland Heights Fire's Deputy Chief Medical Officer, Mark Russell, out of concern for Dowse's behavior because he was, quote-unquote, blowing up at home. That cry for help was ignored, perhaps because Russell is one of Rob's closest friends in the department. Laura also shared a video that Grace had secretly recorded of Rob's escalating abuse prior to her death. Rob can be heard and briefly seen berating Grace, who is trying to shield the phone with a blanket. She really thought she could get him help, says Laura. She thought she could fix him.
Now, do I have to plan on you being here again tonight?
No.
Oh, but you said that last night. So if not, I'll make other arrangements.
What do you mean?
Well, I won't be here then.
Why not?
Because I don't want to be around you tonight.
Why not?
I don't want to be around you, period. But if this is going to be some sort of forced fucking marriage, that doesn't mean I can strive to spend as little time with you as possible and take every little advantage to stay the fucking arm's length from you. Every little night I have to squeak an extra hour at Liberty, traffic, flat tire, whatever the fuck I can do to just extend my life away from you is going to be my priority.
I love you. I hope you have a good day,
There won't
okay?
be any trips.
Okay.
I don't want to travel with you.
Okay.
I don't want to see
I love
the
you.
world with you.
I love
don't
you.
want to do anything with you.
I love you. I hope you have a good day, okay?
Fuck yourself.
Okay.
Fuck you.
I hope you get in a better mood.
No, this is the mood
Okay.
I'm going to be in.
Nope, you're just trying to be mean to me, and I'm not going to take it.
Okay.
I love you. Have a good day.
Fuck you. Fuck your cunt mother. Get the fuck out of my house.
Love you. Have a good day.
Then we will be selling Conway. Just so you know. So I would work on something, whether it's keeping the kids at Irondale or whatever it is you need to do. So you know.
Grace had even sought counseling for her and Rob in the weeks leading up to her death. According to her sister Laura, Rob controlled every aspect of Grace's life and how she spent her time. He controlled how much gas money she was given, who she could see, and when she could see her children. How many adult friends showed up at her funeral? 0, says Laura. She was no longer allowed to have friendships. Grace's own best friend had severed ties with her shortly before her death after having dinner with Rob and Grace. Rob also forced Grace to quit her job and instead work for him at his family's business, says Laura. He had his staff pay him for her work, but she was never added to the payroll. Instead, Rob was paid for her work directly and under the table, says Laura. Before Grace's family had time to process the news of Grace's death, it seemed Rob wanted to pretend she never existed. He immediately purged his social media of any memory of her. He no longer lives in the house where Grace died and which she was painstakingly preparing for sale at the time of her death. Rob now instead lives in their new house, the house for which Grace picked out floating fireplaces and every last light fixture. Though the couple had worked hard to renovate the new home after Grace's death, Rob seemed to be telling people around town he'd been, quote-unquote, 1 foot out of his relationship with Grace. The couple were engaged with a marriage license pending when Grace was killed. Now, he seemed intent on painting her as a desperate and delusional instead. In a twist, however, it was revealed that Rob was allegedly having affairs with men and women throughout his relationship with Grace, according to his own redacted text messages provided to the police by his attorney. Rob's other actions after Grace's death troubled her family. He claimed Grace's engagement ring present at the crime scene was his property. Later, he reported the ring missing and filed an insurance claim, explaining the ring found at the scene was in fact a duplicate he'd made of her engagement ring. The ring's disappearance is being investigated by the police as larceny after Grace's family repeatedly put pressure on the Creve Coeur Police Department to investigate. However, the family is skeptical such an investigation will go anywhere. As the principal witness to verify the ring's ownership, Grace, is dead. Rob never reached out to Grace's family, nor asked to be a part of her burial. He instead abruptly cut ties with his 4 future stepdaughters and hired an attorney. Members of the Maryland Heights Fire Department were directed not to contact the family. Attorney Neil Bruntrager called and spoke to Grace's parents about the case, without ever disclosing he was representing Captain Doss. 2 days after an exchange between Fire Chief Steve Allschwanger and Grace's father, in which her father asked about the investigation into the domestic violent aspects of the relationship. Doss has yet to be officially interviewed by Creve Coeur Police Department concerning the investigation into Grace's violent death and allegations of domestic violence. The original interview tape, recorded when he worked on his written statement, has inadvertently been destroyed by the Creve Coeur Police Department in violation of Missouri state statutes. Tapes secretly recorded by Dowse's biological son of Grace and Dowse, allegedly arguing, have also been destroyed, despite assurances by a Maryland Heights police officer, Daws's son's stepfather, that he would maintain them as evidence. In one recording that was released to the family, a Creve Coeur police detective can be heard on a phone call coaching Dowse on which text messages between he and Grace would be more likely to be evidence consistent with a narrative of suicide.
Hey, Robert.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. Yeah, are you working yet, or are you still off?
I am off, but I'll be starting back next cycle.
Okay. What they want us to do is come by and look at your phone. Do you still have a text thread between you and Grace?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
What they're asking is that we come by, take a look at that, and take some pictures of it. We've got her phone, but it's a little bit difficult and expensive to download. If it would be all right, we'll come by and snap some pictures of the thread between you and her, and then that's pretty much it.
Well, I think it's quite. Yeah, I think it's quite. It goes back quite a ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I guess. Are you guys looking for something immediate, or?
Let me.
Where are we driving at? I guess where I'm trying to. Where are they driving at with the
it's going to have to be sort of relevant to, recent events. So,
like what, are arguing about having a baby or not having a baby?
That would be, certainly relevant. To show her mindset and what was, what was going on in her mind.
Pretty much. Yeah. Well, she didn't. I can tell you, she didn't. Threaten. Well, I don't know. If you went back far enough, there was times where she would, say things like, "Hey, I'm going to go be with our baby," and
right.
That's
that's the kind of stuff that shows that.
But you'd have to go back. Jesus, you'd have to go back. Quite a bit.
Yeah. And we can. I don't know. How many.
It's just. I guess it's what. Is the family pushing on this, or is this relative?
It's everything. It is part of that. It's part of us just wanting to document this or that, and it's again it also can protect you. If there's that I'm going to go be with my baby type language, that obviously is in and of itself is, to be honest, it's suicidal. So.
Well. Yeah,
that's the type of thing that would show that this is something that she did all on her own, and of course, the family has different views and is angry and whatever, so.
Well, I mean, are they think that like I shot her? I mean,
well,
obviously I didn't.
No.
I mean, what are they trying to?
At this point, no. But, that was something that came up initially.
Right.
And that's why we want to do a very thorough job. And, again, it's to preserve the truth, and it's protection for, I mean, I can't see your phone, so I don't know what's on it. I mean,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
it's
not, I mean, it's us arguing.
Yeah.
I mean,
and every couple
back
does.
And forth about,
right.
Arguing about, getting married,
Mm-hmm.
argued about moving in together or not moving in together. Like
right.
I said, I've been pretty open about this. I was
mm-hmm.
1 foot in and 1 foot out of this relationship, so
yep.
it's a lot of arguing back and forth about that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I just.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I can coordinate a time to kind of do it. I guess I'm just trying to figure out how far, back. Right? I guess I'm just a little
mm-hmm.
caught off guard because I'm just kind of like.
Well, I understand that because I'm sure there's going to be some things on there that. Well, I get that too.
I'm just kind of curious what the family is driving at with this point.
Well,
of like
they're
what
they're a difficult family. I mean that's I think and where this may end up, I'm not sure that they're going to be satisfied with the idea that it is who knows. I don't know where they're going to push it or what the story's going to be, but
strange. That's just very
mm-hmm.
That's very disheartening.
Yeah.
Just it's dealing with everything is enough,
mm-hmm.
and I'm just not sure what they're
right.
Look.
Well,
she.
Again,
she had problems, and
so let's just kind of look at it this way. Would you be available sometime today for me to look at that phone?
I could.
Or do you want to call somebody and call me back?
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
I'm not trying to. Here's the thing: I'm not trying to make it complicated
mm-hmm.
by any means.
Right.
I'm not trying to slow the process down
mm-hmm.
or anything like that. And I know that other than us arguing on,
mm-hmm.
The phone,
mm-hmm.
and there's nothing
right
on there other than us arguing on the phone.
Let me ask you a few questions. So how far does it go back? Does this go back a whole year, you think?
It goes back quite a ways.
Okay.
It goes. I guess I'm saying like it goes back months and months.
Do you have a way to print all of that? Do you? Is there a system?
Yeah, I think there is a way. Because I think like Neil mentioned the lawyer guy. He had mentioned something about
mm-hmm.
it at one point in time about there's a way to download your thing. It was kind of like initially when you guys were talking about her phone,
mm-hmm.
and I was like, well, and he had the same kind of question, like, well, what's on it? We argued, and she knew I was,
Why don't you do this? Why don't you get a hold of whoever you want to, find out from the phone company then if you can print it, and if you can do that, call me back and let me know, and then if not, then we can go through it with a camera and take pictures. But like you said, that's going to take us a very long time and probably a lot of photographs to
I guess
cover
I'm
that.
Trying to figure out where it's. I guess it's just kind of catching me, kind of at a miss. I guess I'm just trying to figure out what this family thinks that, what.
Right.
I don't. I mean, do we need,
Well, let's look at the possibilities.
audio, do we need audios of me and her having arguments? How far does this family want to go with all this?
I guess to answer your question, if you look at what could happen, there is, if you look at the criminal side of things, that it would be, a murder situation. And obviously at this point, nobody's saying that. The civil side of things would be like a wrongful death, and that's where, the family might sue you and say, well, he caused, her such anguish that she did this on her own. Those are the two possibilities that I can think of. So if you're, looking at it from your shoes, you're probably going to be in the civil side of it, to where the family would maybe is considering bringing some sort of action that way. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got you.
So,
okay. All right.
Again, I don't have any. I don't have any proof because they haven't called me and said I filed this action. But one can tell from talking to both parties that something might be brewing. So anyway, my point with this is for us to do a thorough job, and to document everything to protect those that need to be protected, those that didn't do anything wrong. We do a thorough police report. That's the best way I can explain it, and that's what I want to do is a thorough job. If you can print those things out for me, it would certainly be easier than me taking photographs.
Sure.
And if I have to take photographs, I certainly will. So if you would please, contact your person at the fire department, talk to him real quick, and then
let me talk to Neil, and he's probably more likely than not. I mean, Neil's, and again, I'm not trying to slow anything down.
Well, and you're going to follow Neil's advice. If Neil says one thing or the other, then then we'll obviously go accordingly with the next investigative step.
We're not trying to, but more than likely, he's probably, any good lawyer is going to say, well, download them. To figure out how to download them. He's going to want to look at them first, because any good lawyer is going to say, well, let me look at them before we.
And you always follow his advice, because he's there. He's there for you. So get back with me, would you please? I am off for 5 days after this, but try to get if you can get back with me today and just kind of let me know like what direction it's going to go, and then if it's if like I said, I'll be off and doing other stuff for the next 5 days, but that'll be hit or miss if you call me. I don't know. And and then when I get back, we'll I'll either collect those printouts from you, or I'll take the pictures, or whatever. Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
the call. All right. Thanks. All right. Bye.
In an open letter to the Creve Coeur Police Department, Laura, the sister, with the assistance of her attorneys and PIs, lays out more than 20 points showing how law enforcement and other responders bungled aspects of the investigation into Grace's death, from their mishandling of the crime scene to losing or failing to collect critical evidence to their treatment of Dowse, who was, by his own admission, standing next to Grace when she died. Now, the Creve Coeur police informed the coroner's office that he was in another room at the time of her death, per the medical examiner's report. They feel that the police have failed them at every level since Grace's death, and their failure to collect evidence means they may likely never get any answers. Some excerpts of that letter include ways that investigators have allegedly mishandled the investigation. And Laura says, number one, they failed to correctly identify an entry versus exit wound, which also means these wounds do not correlate with the position of the body. 2, they misinformed the medical examiner's office as to the location and position of Robert Dowse at the moment of her death. He was, by his own admission, standing next to her. 3, they failed to call crimes against persons. 4, they failed to remove friends of Captain Dowse from the police investigation. 5, they closed the crime scene before reaching out to her family. 6, they failed to investigate her stolen property and lied about not investigating it. 7, they allowed Captain Dowse to be present when picking up her property, despite saying otherwise to the family. 8, they failed to collect and bag evidence properly, such as bagging her hands, testing Captain Dowse's hands for residue, and collecting his clothing. 9, they failed to address the large pool of blood on the right side of her head and identify the cause of that injury. 10, they failed to address the bruises on her body, shown in autopsy photographs. 11, they managed to, quote-unquote, lose multiple video recordings. 12, personal police cell phones were used and not recorded. One officer refused to supply his phone records as part of a Sunshine Law request. 13, they failed to collect Captain Dowse's phone, stating, quote-unquote, he needed them for work. 14, Laura was told by a Creve Coeur police detective that if she wanted answers, she needed to hire a lawyer. Can you believe this? 15, they extended professional courtesy to Captain Dowse well beyond what any other citizen would be given. 16, they failed to verify her handwriting in a suicide note written with language outside her recursive writing patterns. 17, they failed to question Captain Dowse at the time and have yet to question him 14 months later. Now remember, this was a while back that this article was written. 18, they failed to contact her therapist. And 19, Creve Coeur detectives took almost 2 hours to arrive at the crime scene. Now, all Grace Holland's family really wants is a thorough and unbiased investigation into a death of a woman who wholly supported a community that they feel has turned its back on her, and that is the law enforcement community. They want investigators to consider the domestic abuse evident in his text messages and the recordings Grace made, as well as the numerous post-mortem injuries detailed in the autopsy report. They want investigators to consider what Grace may have been attempting to expose about a man who maintains a careful and curated control over all aspects of his life. And now, another woman has died in the same man's home.
At 10 and only on 4, there are big questions tonight about the death of a 39-year-old woman in Frontenac. She was found this morning in a home of a man who has connections to another story that First Alert 4 Investigates dug into 2 years ago. Joining us now with new information is Chief Investigative Reporter Lauren Traeger.
We have learned tonight that the woman who passed this morning is a local doctor named Sarah Sweeney. We've been working all day to gather information about her death, especially in light of another woman's tragic passing 3.5 years ago.
Now, Saturday, another death inside that same person's home, this time on Conway in Frontenac. Police telling First Alert 4 Investigates that they were called at around 6:45 in the morning and found a 39-year-old female deceased inside. They've classified it as a sudden death only. According to officials, there were no obvious signs of injury or struggle. The medical examiner's office says they will need toxicology results and other investigation to determine cause of death. Grace's family learned about it shortly afterwards, raising many more questions for them. An attorney for Grace Holland's family sending First Alert 4 a statement saying, quote, "We are saddened to learn of another death, especially of such a young person. We hope that the Frontenac police do what the Creve Coeur police and the county medical examiner didn't do in the past and fully investigate this tragedy."
Sweeney was identified today by police. She worked in podiatry in town. I spoke with some of her family members who say they were not aware of any life-threatening medical condition or any immediate reason for her sudden death. But they also say they had not spoken to her in 2 years, even though they say they had tried to raise their concerns about Grace's death. One of their last text messages to Sarah, they say, was to tell her to get away from that firefighter.
So now, not only do we have Grace Holland, but on January 13th of this year, 39-year-old Sarah Sweeney was also found dead at the same firefighter's residence. Now, he had moved into the new home that him and Grace were planning on moving into. And this is where Sarah Sweeney was discovered. An online obituary posted by Salem Funeral and Cremation Services mentioned that she had just recently opened up her own podiatry practice in St. Louis County, Missouri. She was found deceased with no evident indications of trauma on January 13th at 6:39 a.m. Her death is currently under investigation. Now, like we've been saying, Sarah became the second woman to be found dead in this one firefighter's house in 3 years. What are the odds of that? Those are slim odds, you guys. because it was just in 2021 that Grace Holland was also discovered with a single gunshot wound to her head there. The obituary posted said that Sarah graduated from North Carolina State University with degrees in microbiology and biological sciences, along with a minor in biochemistry. In April of 2012, she had earned her Doctor of Pediatric Medicine from the Barron University School in Miami Shores, Florida. She then went on to finish her surgical residency at multiple hospitals in the Miami area. And then later, she moved to Port Arthur, Texas, where she practiced medicine for many years before moving to St. Louis, Missouri. Court records filed in November of 2022 revealed that Sarah claimed to have been harassed by her former employer. The same records also mentioned serious medical conditions, including a bone disorder. In 2021, she was also hospitalized and intubated. Fox News reported that Sarah was diagnosed with a rare and painful condition at the age of 6. Her mother, Teresa Sweeney Light, told the Fox News outlet that her daughter was also diagnosed with mast cell activation syndrome, which can be life-threatening. However, the mother mentioned that Sarah had the condition in check and was on medication. She then went on to say that they just want Sarah back. They want closure. They want it to be truthful and fair. And as of right now, the family is still in shock. Now, Sarah's mother said that her daughter and the firefighter met when she was working an emergency room shift after she moved to St. Louis. So upon learning about the Grace Holland case, Sarah Sweeney's family sent her some of the news stories. However, by November 2021, Sarah had stopped responding to text messages from her mother and stepfather. They said, she was a grown adult, a doctor, and a woman. They just didn't know what to do. And in one of the family's very last text messages to Sarah, sadly, they had asked her to get away from the firefighter. Grace Holland's family has filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Robert Dowse, alleging that he was responsible for her death, either by killing her or by pushing her to end her life. The wrongful death lawsuit filed by the family and the investigation into Sarah Sweeney's death are both ongoing. And I do need to make it known that Robert Dowse has not been charged in either of the cases at the time of this recording. So what do you guys think? What are the odds? Is this a case of him using his privilege within the law enforcement community and getting away with something this horrible? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you think. As always, I appreciate every single one of you that are here watching this. Thank you so much. I hope that both of these families get justice for their daughters, their sisters, their mother, and I hope that that justice is quick. With that said, if you've yet to give this video a thumbs up, please do so real quick. And don't forget to subscribe on your way out. Until next time, stay safe, you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.